Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Hello, everybody. I see I've actually got some viewers tonight. How nice. Welcome, welcome. I'm trying to be more consistent with these things, but life is life and it's hectic. And it distracts you and it pulls you in every which way and it fills you with neuroses and self doubt and anxiety and that sometimes lately a lot actually the last 2 years has pulled me away quite a bit from doing this. I've got my Florida man outfit on today. So that kind of ties into what I want to talk about before we do a practice. Not the Florida man part, but the samsaric state of consciousness. So many of you, all of you probably, I mean, the word samsara is such a common term in English in the West now. It's crazy. Um, everybody, everybody that I know at least, all my friends on social media, they know what samsara is. Generally, I think people kind of have a hunch that there's something going on to reality, and they believe in reincarnation and things like that, and so they kind of accept this concept of samsara, of like the world is not the way that it's supposed to be ideally, and we keep reincarnating because of that, and because we mess up, we don't get it right, we don't attain enlightenment, nirvana. Um, what I want to say, though, a small correction with that line of thought. I think that a lot of people, when they hear the word samsara, they tend to think that samsara is like a place, or they talk about the matrix and they see it in these real physical terms, Like, I just saw an article that was going around that said scientists have proven that we're not in a computer simulation. It's like, what the fuck are you even talking about, Just meaningless, what's that word? Non sequiturs. Statements they come from shit that is just some weird assumption of fragmented dualistic consciousness. Samsara in the Matrix, especially in the way that Baudrillard talked about it, the simulation, it's not a physical thing. Um, Physicality is irrelevant. In Pure Lands and beings who are in samadhi and nirvana and devas and things like that, they have physicality in a sense. It's more subtle, refined matter, but it's still the same thing going on here. So it's not physicality that we mean when we're talking about the matrix or samsara. Samsara is a state of consciousness. Just like the opposite, nirvana is a state of consciousness. When you see the Vajra, it's cool that I got this pendant from a Facebook ad. It's cool that I have this because I can kind of use it as a visual aid. You see the Vajra, right? Um, the Vajra has two sides. It has prongs. Hey, Lulu. We're talking about how samsara isn't a place, but it's a state of consciousness. So, uh, um, your being, your being is on one of the other sides of the Vajra at any given moment. Your being is under the weight of samsaric consciousness, or it's enlightened in nirvanic consciousness. So I started this stream by saying that I haven't been streaming that much because the last 2 years life has been keeping me busy, and that samsaric you know, contact that you have, the more you have of it, the more that it draws you into it, which is nothing wrong with that. And that's going to be a theme that I'm going to hit on. It's not necessary to reject samsara. New seekers kind of get into this kick where they just want to, burn everything to the ground. I've seen a lot of people lose their minds, lose families, lose relationships, because they thought that they needed to reject everything about the material world, quote unquote. Again, our perception is the thing that shifts between samsara and nirvana. And with that shift of perception, there's a transmutation of the winds. And I'll talk about this a lot because I want people to understand that we're talking about, not necessarily, not a chemical, not a physical per se, a very subtle, refined energy. Let's say energy, sure. When we're talking about the difference between samsara and nirvana, again, you can think about it like a vajra. On the one side, you have the elements, the impure side of reality. It's why it has four spokes. And on the other side, you have the pure wisdoms, the essence of the the, the four spokes of the elements. And the implication, really, by the vajra is that, the elements, the samsara, the you know the we're thinking about it as a state of consciousness. So the elements of those energies or those winds which become disturbed, um, they contain within them the power of the wisdoms. Like that's the core message of Vajrayana. That's what makes it so profound and powerful, is that those things of samsaric consciousness that drag us in, and we make contact with other people, and that conditions us, and it creates more karma, and it pulls us further into samsara. So it feels like we're overwhelmed with samsara. But really, if you cultivate a meditation practice, if you come in and practice with me, I'm going to introduce you to the other side of the Vajra, which is your own true fundamental nature, which is, the nirvana polarity of the Vajra. So if you can become familiar with the unconditioned mind, then you kind of can see what's going on with samsaric consciousness from outside of it, and you understand that, oh shit, this is just like, impure winds, let's call it like that. It's just like a whirlwind going on inside of, your subtle body, where the spark is drowned out by these winds, which we say in Vajrayana, they create knots in the channels. So, if you can just tap into that nirvana side of the vajra, of the unconditioned state of the mind, of the nirvana side of the consciousness, then you can start to understand and experience deeply what's going on when you go out into the world and you make contact with people who are in that samsaric, deeply conditioned side of reality. um, and you'll be able to move between the two. So that's what I wanted to talk about, is that ultimately you should establish a practice so that you are familiar with the transcendental state, and then you'll notice that once you get to that transcendental state, the elements of the samsaric state of consciousness are kind of like offered into it. It's like oil on a flame, like it's libations on a offering fire, like a yajna. So like when you do really, um, transform the impure winds with the yogic process of this kundalini, which is released, and it burns away these impurities, and you really feel profoundly how um, that samsaric consciousness and the conditioned elements that you pick up through your karma are like an offering into this flame, and they transform. They're like sparks, the little poisons and all the little conditioned phenomena. They release in your psyche, and they just like explode into wisdoms. So that's what I wanted to say. That you should first know the difference between samsara and nirvana, again, states of consciousness. And two, get into the habit of, when you practice and you can see yourself from the other side of the center of that vajra, um, those elements of the conditioned, of the ego, and of your connections with the world, um, will be seen as offerings into the wisdom winds, and those impure kind of winds will settle, and you'll um, know what to do with your life. And then people become a little bit less scary as well, when you're uh, not completely overloaded by the samsaric conditioned consciousness, and you kind of understand that there's nothing to be afraid of from people who are ultimately, just their self-image illusory. If everything, if you see everything, there's a beautiful um, text called "The Wheel of Sharp Weapons." I love it, and it begins with an exhortation to Yamantaka, the tantric um, form of Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom. And I love it. I always like post it on my social media. It says something like, the brave peacocks strut in the jungles of the poisons, and they thrive because they're able to transform them with their compassion. So Tantra is really empowering, and the view that I've just described is very empowering. Because if you look in your relationships, and you view the poisons, which are anger, pride, desire, um, envy, and ultimately just delusion itself. If you view them as like fuel for the flame of your wisdom, because you see through them, you understand that these conditioned phenomena don't have a separate being from the unconditioned phenomena, right? They're part of the same continuum. If you see that and you understand that, then you don't have anything to fear from your relationships with people. You can become a good actor in their lives. You're ready to accept the challenge of dealing with people. And I say that because I've noticed in my life that people have become very standoffish with each other. People are incredibly afraid of being vulnerable, and I think um, a lot of people are miserable, um, and just that, like, that toxicity, and that has just like fermented in them, and they want, um, ultimately, what relationships are, whether as friends or as family or as lovers, unity in the core of your being. That people really desire that community, but they're not able to get it because they don't have self-knowledge. They're just completely deadened in their senses, and kind of distracted by social media, which is like endless conditioned phenomena overtaking your senses completely. Um, yeah, I genuinely, do think that's what a tantric bodhisattva is to go out and transmute the poisons wherever they go, and burn the flame of the wisdoms which are on the other side of those poisons. But that's pretty much just what I wanted to say. So that's right, perfect, perfect, Richard. So I'm gonna do a practice with you guys. What I'm going to do is that every time that I sit down and so if you guys if you wanna practice with me, you can get a pillow or find somewhere where you can sit with a straight back, where you're not going to be distracted. Turn your do not disturb on, please. What I've been doing with these sessions, if anybody has practiced actual Vajrayana or studied it, I know you have, Lulu. You'll kind of notice the structure that I tend to use comes from me having done generation sadhana for the last decade, to the point that that's how I experience myself and my inner reality. I've actually, goodness gracious, I had an experience like about 2 or 3 years, about 4 or 5 years ago now, a while ago, which was brought on by something to do with karma mudra, and it was very, very profound. And I actually, like, I experienced the illusory body, like I experienced what generation sadhana is like in other dimensions. And truly, truly, generation sadhana is the structure of how the universe works. Generation sadhana, for those of you not aware, is like, there's two parts of Vajrayana Tantra. There's generation, sadhana, and completion. So it mirrors the structure of life. We wake up in the morning is just like generating our mind as a deity. We dissolve. I remember, I'll never forget this. There was a guy in a Discord chat. He was a Vajrayana guy, a monk or something like that. And he was going to bed and he said, "Oh, I need to go dissolve my bija. I need to go to sleep." Right? That's so your identity, the sum total of all of the things that you are throughout the day, is really like a flower of your prana, of your life force. And so at nighttime, what happens is that flower, just like a miniature death, it dissolves into the somewhere, one of your centers. And you're regenerated when you dream, as your dream body, and the illusory body is largely unconscious for most people. And then when we wake up again, it's like the prana is like becoming the flower of our existence again. And it's that itself is what we do in generation sadhana. First we dissolve our mind. I mean, first we say prayers to set our intention. Then we dissolve the mind, and then you emerge as this like luminous, enlightened being. So the point is that if you can do generation sadhana like I did, like in like the bardo, that's it. Like you accomplish the goal of Vajrayana, which is Buddhahood in one lifetime. Then when you die, there's nothing to be afraid of. You're already completely familiar with the nature of your mind as it is, truly, not as anything you can conceptualize or that we can rationalize, but like truly the Buddha nature of the mind. So if we can become familiar with that, become accustomed to that, train our mind to behave in the way that a Buddha's mind behaves, then there's nothing to be afraid of when we die, because it's just the mind is free, and it's gonna generate in a way which it correlates to the state of consciousness as karma. Um, so the unenlightened mind will go and regenerate somewhere, and as an animal, or likely, or hungry ghost or something bad, because we're very bad in this Kali Yuga. Maybe a lot of people will come back as a human. It's funny about reincarnation. I know I'm going off on a tangent. A lot of people like say, "Oh, I want to reincarnate as this person or that person." It's like, probably not most, but I think a good chunk of people are not making it back to their human form. They misuse their human form tremendously. A lot of people are not making it. Most people probably go to being an animal. To be honest, a human rebirth is like that's like a privileged rebirth from people that have done very well in their lives. People who have there's a I remember in the Lamrim teachings it says something like anybody who like tries to live a religious life gets to be reborn as a human being. So anybody who tries to be a good person, you get another shot, but anybody else is not coming back as a human being. But either way, all of that starts in the mind. It starts as the image. It starts as a self-image, and then it kind of slowly crystallizes into matter. So what really matters is the image. And again, that's what we do in generation sadhana is we create an image of ourselves after we dissolve the mind, where the mind is completely boundless sandbox. It's if just if as an experiment, if there was a sentient being whose mind was boundless and was a sandbox, what would happen? What would they create? What would they generate as their identity or their self-image? That's the questions that we address in generation sadhana. We generate ourselves as a Buddha with the 32 major and 80 minor marks, which are, simulacra of the perfect ideal state, perfect ideal person, perfect ideal qualities. That, if you as an experiment were to say, okay, infinite consciousness in a sandbox, what are we going to generate as the perfect ideal form of existence? That's what we focus on. Because one day your mind is going to become free, whether you like it or not, when you cease to exist. So I said all that because when I've been doing these sessions, I've just been kind of flowing naturally with a generation sadhana without doing anything that you have to be initiated to do. So kind of just using the framework and the structure of Tantra to do guided meditations, and that's what I would like to do now. So if you guys are ready to join me, we're going to start by this is a visualization that I learned from reading a Lama Yeshe book. When we die, according to the Bardo Todol, Tibetan Book of the Dead, when we die according to Tibetan science, the elements of the body collapse into one another, and then those withdraw into this white light, and then the whole death process occurs. Now that's because at conception, the very first thing that happens at conception is the what's called in Tibetan the soglung, or the life-bearing wind, like the most subtle of the subtle winds, from where all your other winds come from. It's in your heart. It enters into the red and white bindu united of the parents, and then using the energy of the orgasm, it starts to structure the subtle body, and as the elements of the body slowly emerge from the red and white bindu that comes from the parents, it takes on these archetypal elemental qualities. So you have the tanmatras and mahabhutas, which become the first kind of inklings of sense consciousness and qualities like fluidity and form and emotion and feelings and all that kind of stuff in an archetypal way. They emerge and in this kind of progression. And so when we die, it's said that the winds kind of withdraw in a progression of the elements as well. So Lama Yeshe gave that as an instruction for how that we do the first part of the generation sadhana, is you do it in reverse, like death. So we go through a conscious death process, and then you generate as the from the level of the clear light mind. So let's just do kind of a slow, like a general type of generation sadhana. So what I'm going to do is slow my breathing down. I'm going to keep my back straight. And I'm going to release the tension in my body from the top of my head and through my shoulders, my belly, my waist, my thighs, my legs, and the bottom of my feet. And I'm going to hold my attention on my breath, breathing in slowly through the nose and out through the mouth. You should be breathing slower and slower and more gently and more gently. You shouldn't be able to hear the sound of yourself breathing. Let your eyes kind of gently rest semi-shut, looking towards the center of your nose. I'm going to imagine that my senses are withdrawing into my mind. Touch, taste, smell, sight, hearing. Each of my sense consciousness are withdrawing inwardly into the experience of my mind. In the Supreme Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, until enlightenment, I take refuge to the perfection of wisdom. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings have the supreme happiness which knows no suffering. May all sentient beings abide in immeasurable equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to near and far. When I say the emptiness mantra, we're going to visualize consciously the death process. Om Svabhava Shuddho Sarva Dharma Svabhava Shuddho Aham. In your belly, the yellow earth element withdraws upwards into the blue water element in the belly. The water and earth elements withdraw upwards into the fire element at the heart. The fire, earth, and water elements withdraw upwards into the wind element at the throat. The earth, water, fire, and earth elements withdraw upwards into the Ajna chakra, into an all-pervading white light. The white light immediately transforms into all-pervading red light. This is the white and red drop, the kundalini of all the Buddhas. All-pervading red light. And then in an instant, everything is voidness, black, extending infinitely in all directions. And then a clear light, translucent, clear light spreads out, the essence of the transcendental mind and voidness. This is the realm of Akanishta, where Lord Shiva dwells. Our mind is completely unbounded. Visualize yourself as a perfect, ideal being, a Buddha. This perfect, ideal being has thousands of arms, holding all kinds of things, which are able to manifest anything for the sake of sentient beings. Each arm has a different tool which is able to overcome all types of ignorance, pride, anger, psychological complexes, unconscious neuroses, unfulfilled wishes. It has coins and $100 bills to alleviate the poverty of all sentient beings. It has medicines to cure the ills of all sentient beings. It has x-ray vision to identify any malady in sentient beings and come up with a cure instantaneously. On the center of our ideal Buddha head is a white chakra marked with an Om syllable. At the throat is a red chakra marked with a Ah syllable. At the heart is a blue chakra marked with a Hung syllable. Light emanates from the Hung syllable at the heart And all of the Buddhas in the clear light abode manifest above the top of your head and pour the nectar of immortality through the center of the crown chakra, which flows through your subtle body, purifying all of your channels. Again, light streams forth from the blue chakra at the heart, an offering of your enlightened essence to all the Tathagatas in all the 10 directions. The Tathagatas in turn dissolve into the center of your heart and become one with you, the perfect ideal being. Now, again, at the center of our heart, a mantra and a rosary starts circulating counterclockwise. The mantra, which we will chant for a little bit, is Om Mani Padme Hum. So let's chant the mantra together. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Light radiating from the mantra spreads out in all the 10 directions, all over the earth, providing all sentient beings with everything that they need to resolve their psychological complexes, to become Buddhas themselves, to attain all of their desires. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme beme hunga money 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 beme hunga. You should experience and see that Avalokiteshvara's beautiful face is your own. You should think, I am Avalokiteshvara. In an instant, the ideal Buddha form of yourself collapses inwardly to a small pinprick in the center of the heart, into voidness. Through the power of our practice, respect, and praise, may all sentient beings benefit wherever they may be, causing sickness, violence, and poverty to subside. May Dharma and good omens ever increase. Now, if anybody has anything that they'd like me to chat about, questions and answers, thank you all very much for joining me today. If you're just joining, we just finished our meditation session. If anybody would like to ask me anything or give me ideas or something that they'd like to hear me talk about or do videos about, feel free. Well, that was incredibly powerful. I definitely feel the strength of the auras of my listeners. Your guys' auras are very powerful. I feel like that our souls are kind of like a field, and if you kind of get together like this in a way that you purify the winds, like the power just compounds. Like you see, so I always see Tibetans doing group meditations. Like it becomes like a collective field, like a Buddha field. It really does. It's so powerful to practice in groups. So I will. I mean, I've done like 3 streams in the last couple weeks, which is more streams than I've done in the last like year or two. So please remember to hit the notification bell so you guys get a alert when I'm doing my next stream. I work a lot. I work like 55 hours, 56 hours a week, and I don't always have time to do this, but I will try to on my day off, and I will try to make these a persistent thing on a set day. Would be nice. Kind of hard because of what I do is all over the place. Um, but yeah, if any of you would like to talk to me about anything, I'm always available. Can leave a comment. Um, Usually social media, I have Instagram, JamesP707. I have Facebook. I know a lot of you guys got me on Facebook. You can leave a comment on my YouTube stream, on the stream here, if you'd like my contact info. Um, yeah, but if there's nothing else, I am going to sign off and go grab some food. Thank you all for joining me, and we will have to do this again soon.